In early 2025, news broke that Joel Tudeman, a rising star in one of the nation's most influential church networks, had been removed from his prominent leadership position. The announcement sent shockwaves through the church community and rippled far beyond its walls, reaching online forums, social media platforms, and even mainstream media outlets. For weeks, conversations about Tudeman's abrupt removal dominated news feeds, water cooler discussions, and private gatherings alike. Many observers initially assumed that the decision stemmed from a unilateral action by the bishop, a move driven by personality, authority, or disciplinary concerns. Headlines framed it as a dramatic fall from grace, while armchair commentators speculated freely, crafting theories about misconduct, ambition, or rivalry. Rumors multiplied, often outpacing the facts, creating a digital courtroom where judgments were passed instantly, sometimes harshly, and almost always prematurely. Behind the curtain, the complex reality of leadership decisions, yet the story, when peeled back, revealed a far more nuanced reality. The decision to remove Tudeman did not arise from a single impulsive act or personal vendetta. Rather, it was the result of complex institutional dynamics, strategic calculations, and long-term considerations about leadership, alignment, and vision. Far beyond the public eye, months, if not years, of private deliberation, careful observation, and quiet negotiation had set the stage. It was a narrative woven through human ambition, organizational necessity, and institutional responsibility, and it highlighted a truth often overlooked. In structured organizations, the public narrative is almost always simpler than the internal one. Joel Tudeman, a rising voice. To understand why Tudeman's removal sparked such intense reactions, it is crucial to first appreciate his role and influence. Joel Tudeman was not merely a young pastor filling a pulpit. He represented a bridge between generations. He spoke to a demographic often overlooked in traditional ministry structures: young adults, digital natives, and those navigating the modern complexities of faith and life. Unlike many leaders who relied solely on institutional authority or scripted messaging, Tudeman embraced vulnerability and authenticity. He openly discussed his struggles, doubts, and questions, modeling a faith that was approachable, relatable, and deeply human. Tudeman's sermons became more than just weekly services. They were conversations. Congregants described feeling seen and heard in ways that traditional services often did not allow. His approach to ministry was holistic, blending spiritual guidance with cultural awareness, practical advice, and unflinching honesty. Clips of his sermons circulated widely online, gaining traction on social media platforms and extending his influence far beyond those who physically attended services. As his online following grew, so too did his impact, positioning him as one of the most prominent emerging leaders in the modern church landscape. The double-edged sword of influence. However, influence is rarely without complications. As Tudeman's profile increased, so did the scrutiny of his every move. While his followers celebrated his authenticity, some members of the established leadership began to feel unease. In hierarchical organizations, especially faith-based institutions steeped in tradition, the rise of a new voice can inadvertently challenge existing structures of authority. Tudeman's growing popularity, combined with his outspoken style and digital reach, caused concern among certain leaders who feared a shift in influence from the collective vision of the church to the magnetism of a single individual. Behind closed doors, conversations about alignment and authority began to intensify. Leaders questioned whether Tudeman's independence in communication, his innovative approaches to outreach, and his engagement with non-traditional topics might inadvertently eclipse the broader mission. While these concerns were not personal, they reflected a fundamental tension in institutions balancing innovation with tradition. Tudeman's rise illuminated the delicate equilibrium organizations must maintain, embracing fresh ideas while protecting the integrity and continuity of the institution. Early signs of tension. The tensions that eventually led to Tudeman's removal did not arise overnight. Subtle signs emerged gradually. Disagreements over the tone of messaging, debates about which issues to publicly address, and quiet murmurs about the risks of rapid digital expansion. Tudeman's willingness to confront challenging social issues and engage transparently with followers contrasted sharply with the established leadership's preference for discretion and stability. While many celebrated Tudeman's courage, others interpreted it as a challenge to authority. Meetings that once focused primarily on ministry growth began to scrutinize his methods, his outreach strategy, and his digital presence. Questions were raised about the potential long-term impact of a leader who commanded attention outside traditional oversight channels. These discussions, though often private, foreshadowed the eventual public controversy, underscoring how small internal disagreements can escalate when left unaddressed over time. Differing visions of ministry. At the heart of the matter was a philosophical divergence in leadership approaches. Tudeman prioritized authenticity, dialogue, and cultural relevance, whereas traditional leadership favored consistency, stability, and adherence to established procedures. Tudeman encouraged followers to think critically, ask questions, and engage in conversations about modern faith experiences. While this resonated strongly with younger audiences, it challenged long-standing norms and created friction with leaders committed to preserving hierarchical structures. The tension was compounded by the visibility Tudeman achieved through online platforms. Every sermon, post, and interaction was scrutinized, analyzed, and compared with institutional messaging. The leadership had to grapple with a key question: how to allow individual expression without undermining collective cohesion. For organizations steeped in hierarchy, this is a perennial dilemma, often invisible to outsiders. The breaking point, ultimately, a breaking point emerged, not due to scandal or misconduct, but as a result of cumulative concerns about alignment, authority, and influence. Leadership convened meetings, formal and informal, to assess the situation carefully. Questions centered on whether Tudeman's personal brand, however well-intentioned, might grow to overshadow the institution itself. Could the organization maintain cohesion while a single leader gained disproportionate influence? Could the broader mission remain intact if individual voices became central points of attention? Despite Tudeman's assurances that his work was collaborative and mission-driven, the leadership decided that a structural change was necessary. The removal was framed publicly as a transition or a new season, language designed to maintain calm while reinforcing the institution's strategic priorities. Behind this carefully curated messaging lay months of deliberation and strategy, reflecting a leadership philosophy that values long-term stability over short-term optics. The personal impact. For Tudeman, the removal was deeply personal. Years of ministry, relationship building, and mentoring felt suddenly destabilized. Yet he approached the situation with composure, humility, and spiritual reflection, expressing gratitude for the opportunities he had and a commitment to continue serving in different capacities. Behind the public composure, however, there was grief, reflection, and an acute awareness of the intersection between personal ambition and institutional constraints. Friends and mentors provided quiet support, helping him navigate the complex emotional and professional terrain. The public response. The church community's response was immediate and multifaceted. Some were outraged, assuming a punitive action from leadership. Others empathized with the difficult decisions organizations must make. The controversy sparked debates about the nature of leadership, the challenges of succession, and the balance between innovation and tradition in faith institutions. Tudeman's removal became a touchpoint for broader discussions about organizational politics, hierarchy, and the challenges rising leaders face in structured environments. The amplification of influence. Ironically, the very action that was intended to limit Joel Tudeman's influence had the opposite effect. magnifying his presence and impact far beyond what had been possible while he held his previous role. Rather than fading into obscurity or being silenced, Tudeman's sudden removal became a catalyst for public attention, reflection, and discourse. Social media platforms erupted with discussions, hashtags trended, and countless individuals shared, analyzed, and debated the circumstances surrounding his departure. News outlets covered the story extensively, not only reporting the event, but also exploring the broader themes it raised about leadership, accountability, and the challenges faced by rising voices in structured institutions. This heightened scrutiny transformed Tudeman into a focal point for conversations that extended well beyond the immediate church community. Supporters, critics, and observers alike examined the dynamics between innovation and tradition, personal authenticity and organizational alignment, and the delicate balance between influence and authority. In effect, his removal created a public stage on which questions about leadership strategy, transparency, and institutional governance could be debated in real time. Tudeman himself responded with remarkable composure, using the opportunity to reflect on lessons learned and to articulate his vision for the future. His measured, thoughtful statements resonated with followers who admired both his integrity and resilience. What might have been a moment of setback instead became a period of amplified engagement, as people tuned in not only to see his next moves, but to consider the principles he represented: authenticity, courage, and thoughtful leadership. Ultimately, the attempt to curtail Tudeman's influence inadvertently demonstrated a key truth about leadership: authentic connection and principled action cannot be confined by organizational decisions or titles. His story highlights how influence, when rooted in integrity, transparency, and vision, can grow stronger even in the face of obstacles, transforming challenges into opportunities for dialogue, reflection, and enduring impact. Lessons from the Tudeman story. The story of Joel Tudeman illustrates the complexities of leadership, influence, and institutional governance. It reveals the delicate balance between authenticity and alignment, individuality, and collective mission. Aspiring leaders can learn that influence is both empowering and precarious, and that organizational politics often shape outcomes more than public perception. It also demonstrates that institutional stability sometimes necessitates difficult decisions that may not reflect personal failings, but rather strategic considerations. Tudeman's journey underscores the resilience required to navigate leadership within hierarchical systems and the importance of aligning personal vision with institutional priorities without sacrificing authenticity. Conclusion: leadership, vision, and resilience. The story of Joel Tudeman's removal offers a profound lesson in leadership, vision, and resilience, illustrating the complex realities faced by emerging leaders within structured institutions. At first glance, the headlines and social media chatter suggested a sudden, dramatic shift driven by authority or personal disagreement. Yet, as the full context emerges, it becomes clear that Tudeman's experience reflects much deeper themes: the balancing act between personal influence and organizational hierarchy, the challenges of navigating institutional expectations, and the resilience required to maintain integrity and purpose amidst turbulence. Leadership, as Tudeman's story demonstrates, is rarely linear or straightforward. Rising leaders often encounter resistance not because of lack of competence, commitment, or character, but because their influence disrupts established dynamics. In Tudeman's case, his authenticity, openness, and connection with younger audiences amplified his impact and visibility, qualities that are celebrated in modern leadership discourse but can create tension in traditional, hierarchical environments. His removal, while difficult on a personal level, was shaped not by failure, but by strategic considerations of alignment, continuity, and institutional stability. It underscores a critical truth: leadership is as much about understanding systems and structures as it is about charisma or skill. Moreover, Tudeman's journey highlights the role of resilience in leadership. Experiencing a sudden shift in position or being removed from a platform one has cultivated over years can challenge even the strongest individuals. Yet Tudeman approached the situation with humility, reflection, and strategic foresight. Rather than allowing frustration or public speculation to define him, he focused on the broader lessons, maintaining integrity, fostering dialogue, and embracing opportunities to continue influencing others constructively. His ability to process and respond thoughtfully illustrates how setbacks, when approached intentionally, can become catalysts for growth, innovation, and renewed purpose. The narrative also underscores the importance of vision. Tudeman's removal illuminated the tension between individual vision and collective mission, a lesson applicable to any organization. Even when one's approach resonates deeply with a particular audience, leaders must navigate the realities of collaboration, alignment, and shared governance. Tudeman's experience encourages emerging leaders to cultivate influence responsibly, balancing ambition with patience, innovation with strategic awareness, and personal authenticity with institutional priorities. Finally, this case serves as a reminder that influence extends beyond formal titles or positions. Tudeman's impact did not diminish because he was removed. In fact, it was amplified as followers, colleagues, and observers engaged more deeply with the principles he represents. Authentic leadership, rooted in integrity, courage, and vision, finds avenues to flourish even in challenging environments. His story is a testament to the enduring power of purposeful action, resilient character, and a strategic mindset, providing an invaluable, the enduring power of purposeful action, resilient character, and a strategic mindset. It's of modern institutions and inspiring others to lead with both heart and wisdom.